One of the big little cult horror hits of the last number of years has been the Terrifier. I got to admit, I don't think they're all that good personally, but I know some people, dude, that absolutely are obsessed with it. And Ann and I have already been to a couple of Halloween parties, and we've seen one or two. What's the name of the clown again? McGibbly Testicles or whatever.
I think that's accurate.
No.
Yes, McDiggly Testicles. That is the name of the clown.
Terrifying clown.
So, Art, that's his name.
Art the clown.
That's close. Art.
Because that's what he's creating.
Testicles.
His victims. He's making art.
Yes, making art. So, it's been a massive hit. Like, these movies that have been made for, like, the tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars have been making in the tens of millions of dollars. It's an incredible Hollywood success story. But whenever there are big success stories, eventually some of the dirty laundry starts to come out. And now is one of those things. As one of the actresses, this is coming to us from Screen Rant, one of the actresses from the original Terrifier is now suing the director, the producer, and the studio behind it for financial fraud and for what they're labeling as abuse, because they did some things they weren't supposed to do if the allegations are true. So we're going to read a part of this here. Where's the main thing? Okay, here it is. Now a report from Entertainment Weekly reveals Corcoran, who was in the first one, she was like best friend with the main character, and she's the one that got hung upside down and sawed in half, that sort of thing. Corcoran filed a lawsuit in California federal court on Saturday, October the 26th. The lawsuit alleges her contract from the first Terrifier movie has not been fulfilled, suffering both sexual harassment and financial fraud as a result. The lawsuit claims Corcoran agreed with the director Damien Leone, producer Phil Falcone, and the film's production companies that she would receive 1% of the profits from all Terrifier movies and merchandise, even in films that she does not appear in. Despite Terrifier's massive box office success since its first installment, Corcoran has allegedly only been paid $8,000 to date for her work. Now, later on, it goes on to explain that on a budget of like $250,000, something like that, the Terrifier movies have gone on to make like $40 million, $90 million. And that's a lot of money that she's owed. That's a lot of money she's owed. But it goes on to say that the conditions she worked in kind of exceeded where her contract was at. Like, for example, they said, they had her taped down on this board and put actual rat feces on her, which is like something she didn't sign up for.
That's ridiculous.
When they were doing the hanging her upside down.
She said there was rat feces in the prosthetics.
Yeah, but that they then put right on her.
Right, but I don't think they knew. They didn't intentionally put rat feces in the prosthetics.
That's questionable. Then she said it was when she showed up to set to do the upside down scene that they told her it's mandatory that she do the scene topless. And then, this is one of the creepier things. She claims that without her consent, they started taking a bunch of pictures of her topless. And that's just kind of creepy. Then there was some, your standard stuff of working conditions and things like that. But the main one here, of course, is she's saying, like, you guys, you promised me 1% in exchange for the fact that she worked for the SAG minimum $100 per day. I'm very familiar with that SAG minimum.
Yes.
Because I made a little movie where I got to pay the SAG minimum of $100 a day. Very, very familiar with that particular number. But so she agreed to do that in exchange for like 1%. And if these movies have made like $140 million in profit, guess what? She's owed like $1.4 million. Instead, she got $8,000. Now, I know it shouldn't strike any of us as being terribly odd, Rob. Wait a minute. The Terrifier, the people the minds behind that might have done some things unbecoming. Maybe not all that surprising. Now, look, this is all one side of the story.
Yeah.
We're sure we'll see what happens when the lawsuit goes on, but this is the first like kind of real black mark on this franchise so far. Anyway, Rob, you read through the story. What were some of the bigger points on it to you?
Okay, I'm conflicted about this story. Because on one hand, like I always say, John, it ain't show friends, it's show business. You sign a contract. especially when there's nudity involved, nudity riders. You have contracts. If somebody promised a certain profit from movies, that would be in a contract. Just saying something like that, hey, that's not a contract.
Yes, it is.
Yes,
it is.
Now,
it is legally a binding
here's
contract.
the thing. It depends in the context of having that conversation. If somebody's like just musing and throwing things out and going, well, maybe we could do this. This was a crowd-funded movie, this first film. Nobody knows what's going to happen with a crowd-funded movie. And I would imagine that there's a lot of talk. Everyone thinks when they make a movie, they're going to make an Academy Award-winning movie or whatever.
Everybody starts practicing their Oscar
their
acceptance
Oscar
speech right away.
But when it comes to things like this, I know this because, look, I directed 5 episodes of this show for HBO Cinemax called Femme Fatales. And we had nudity riders, very specific contracts. And there were times after the fact that the actresses regretted doing nudity. And they came back and they were angry about it. And you're like, no, we signed this. We went through, the directors all had to call all the actresses and talk, and the actors, and discuss, is this okay with you? The production company mandated that we did that. And I was one of those, I had to make these kind of weird phone calls and talk to my actors before I'd even met them. So I was thinking about shooting you this way. You know, we did have these conversations. So it was all above board, and it was all up front. But when it comes to things like profit, this all has to be this. If that's true, there would be a contract that says that, because you can't promise people profit and not have it's not for you to say. You have to, because where's the money coming from? What's going on? Especially it's crowdfunded. So I'm sure that there was a lot of discussions that were had, but you still need to get, that's why you've got to get that contract, because, and also after the fact, after 3 movies now, it's a little sus to me.
Well, I mean, it also could have just been her being put off, like,
sure,
yeah, it's coming, yeah, it's coming, yeah, it's coming.
That's true.
And being patient and giving them an opportunity. Now, I think you bring up a really interesting point, and so I wanted Jonathan here. We weren't prepared for this, so let's jump into the Campea classroom for a second.
I'm always prepared.
Yeah, always prepared, because Rob brings up a really good point that I think a lot of people don't know about this stuff. So when we say a contract in law, when does a contract officially, when is inception? When does a contract actually come into legally binding existence? There's more. I'm going to oversimplify this, okay? So just stay with me here. I am going to oversimplify it. But John, did you know there's also, yeah. But here's the oversimplification of it. There are 4 key things. There are others, but we're just going to stick to these 4. That if these 4 things exist, whether it's in writing or not, you have a legally binding contract. Number 1.
Acting on reliance.
You have to have I put an exclamation point instead of a number. Number 1, an offer, right? For a contract to exist, there has to be somebody offering something. It's like, hey, Jonathan, I would like to give you this magnificent Superman hat. Or something like that, right? I want you to drive me to the airport tomorrow night. Okay? That's what I want. I want you to drive me to the airport for tomorrow night, and I'll give you something in return. Offer. The second thing you need to have, you have to have acceptance. Somebody in that, Jonathan has to say, I agree to drive you to the airport tomorrow night. There used to be, in like the entertainment business and in mail order stuff, this really sneaky thing. Somebody would send you an offer and say, basically, if you don't want this, reply with no thank you. Otherwise, we're going to start sending you the product and you ask money. And the legal says, no, because they never accepted your offer. So number 1, you have to have an offer. Number 2, you have to have acceptance. Number 3, you have to have capacity. Capacity can mean a number of things. But let's say this. Rob can offer to sell Jonathan my house for $1,000.
Nice, right?
Yeah.
Jonathan.
Nice sliding doors. I hear there's a couple.
And you know what? If you want to add another
doors.
one,
Yeah.
there's another one around.
Jonathan can say, I accept. Here's the problem. It's not Rob's house to sell. He does not have capacity. Capacity can also mean several other things. For instance, there are certain places in the world, like here, that you have to be of a certain age. Like if a 12-year-old says, yeah, I'll do that, The law is going to step in and say a 12-year-old child does not have capacity, that they do not have the legal capacity to make those, to enter into those types of decisions. So you have to have capacity. The fourth thing there needs to be is consideration. So I offer Jonathan the opportunity to drive me to the airport. He accepts. It's his car, so he has capacity. But unless there's something that he's getting out of it or consideration, it's not a contract. Now, let's get back to this wonderful Superman hat that one of our fans at one of our meet and greets gave to me, or one of our movie meetups. So if I offer Jonathan, hey, you have the wonderful opportunity to drive me to the airport, and Jonathan says yes, and he owns a truck, so he has capacity, that doesn't make it a legally binding contract yet, until the Superman hat comes into it. Once there is actually something being offered as consideration for it, then that satisfies the four things: offer, acceptance, capacity, consideration. Now, here's the thing where a lot of people get confused. For a contract to exist, and again, I'm oversimplifying it, there are other factors as well, but this is the basis of it. A lot of people think for this contract to exist, it has to be in writing. It doesn't. If Rob and I, say Rob makes an offer to me to buy my Stanley Cup off of me, and I accept, and he says, I'll do it for $5, and I accept. Rob comes to me the next day with the $5, and I say, nah, not doing it. We didn't have it in writing. Doesn't matter. If Jonathan was there and saw me agree to it,
Yeah.
it's a contract, as binding as it is in paper, generally speaking. Now, here's the thing. What she's going to rely on, what's interesting in this case with the Terrifier, is she didn't just say it was with one person behind one closed door that they made the agreement.
Sure.
She said this was an agreement with the director, the producers, and
Right.
the production companies were all in. They had the discussion with all of them. And if they go under deposition, this is going to come out. And if they find that they did say, hey, we want you to be in our movie and play this role, and she says yes, and she is of legal age to make that agreement, and they were the proper authorities of the movie to make the offer, that's capacity, and they said, we'll pay you the SAG minimum $100 a day, we'll have that written in the contract, but on top of all that, we'll give you 1% of any profit this franchise makes, they're screwed. This is a legally binding contract, if that is indeed what happens.
Yeah.
And that's going to be the tricky part.
I would say one of my favorite Hollywood examples of this that people should look into because it's fascinating is the Boxing Helena deal. So Jennifer Lynch, David Lynch's daughter, was making a movie called Boxing Helena, and Pam Basinger agreed to star in it. She ended up pulling out, and she was replaced with Sherilyn Fenn. But it was a big deal, and I believe that Kim Basinger was actually found guilty, that she'd made a contract and everything was copacetic. The movie got financed. They ended up making it, but caused a lot of consternation with other people. So that's a really great case study. The thing about this that I find dubious is it's a crowd-funded movie, and they had no idea what was going to... First of all, taking pictures of nude actresses on set is the scuzziest thing in the world. That is extremely unprofessional, and that's a whole separate actionable issue. That has nothing to do with, and having terrible conditions on low budget indie horror films is also not something. It happens all the time. You know, everybody knows this. Everybody goes in like we're shooting it outside at night for whatever reason. I'm not saying it's great, but it happens. But the promises that were made based on future films on a crowd-funded movie, where you don't even know if you're going to finish the thing, that seems, and they didn't even have a distributor when they were making the movie. So the director,
but that's their fault.
Well, no, it is true,
right?
But when she says companies offered me these things, I mean, and she's the girl that gets killed in the beginning. There's a lot of promises that are being made that sound dubious to me. That maybe they are actionable, you know. And people said in the look, take off your clothes, we'll give you 1% of the. I can see somebody saying that. Don't say that.
Yeah, I can't. Again, under capacity, it can't just be the assistant director that says it. It can't just be a gaffer that makes the offer to her. She claims that the director, the producer, and the company behind it were all in agreement that you're going to get 1%. of whatever this thing ends up making, if you take your top off for us and let us film you, then that was really stupid of them to make that offer.
Sure. That's why, but that's
it is
why
the offer.
Yeah, if that was made. But
Yeah.
it's interesting that this comes out after 3 movies have been made. Now it's an established franchise and it's made a lot of money.
Again, you give them time to I mean, I was in a legal situation once, and thankfully it didn't come to anything. But I literally gave the other side 5 years. I gave them chance after chance after chance, and I gave them years to follow up on their promises, and they never did. And then I took the next steps,
Yeah.
and then, whoo, look, everything got resolved all of a sudden.
And I bet you had a big paper trail too.
Oh, I did. Yeah, mostly like emails and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
I
but
won't-
that's enough.
Yeah, we won't go into that. But again, you get people under oath in deposition, and it's not just one person. You're talking about people at the production company, the
Yep.
producer, whatever. As long as one of them cracks and goes, yeah, that offer was
That's
made.
why you always save your emails.
It's also
100%. I never delete any of my
archive
emails.
them every year.
also when you enter litigation, you open yourself out to discovery.
Oh,
And if the other party does not want
Yep.
other items being made public, that could work in your favor.
yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, and look, this could get messy. It could. Here's what I think is going to happen. What's going to happen in this case is the same thing that happens in 95% of cases. This will never go to trial. The Terrifier side is going to go to her representation and say, "I'm just going to make up a number. What if we cut her a check for $500,000 right now? Can we just make this all go away?" And they're going to go, yes.
And you
Or
sign
they'll
an
say-
NDA and don't talk about this
Yes,
ever again.
and then they'll sign an NDA, or they'll say no, and they'll say, okay, how about $750,000, and we don't have to go through all this mess. So this will probably all get settled out of case at one point or another, unless the Terrifier side decides, no, man, she is straight up lying. None of that ever happened, and we all can prove it. Well, then they'll fight it, and maybe it goes. But I think 95% chance this thing gets settled out of court.
I do too.
But it's going to be interesting to see how it goes. And then if they do, does she keep that 1% for future Terrifier movies? Or do they say, okay, we'll cut you a check for $1 million right now, but you agree to forfeit anything we owe you for future? I mean, I don't know. It's going to be really
I
interesting.
mean,
to see
you
how this works
remember,
out.
you know, it's when George Lucas said to Alec Guinness, you know, hey, I'm going to give you a bigger piece of this movie that we're making to keep him happy. Alec Guinness tells the story. He made a lot of money.
Yeah.
Hey, $1 million, if you invest it right and you get some good dividends, 10% dividends, it's $100,000 a year of living
Yep.
for doing nothing.
Yep. All right, guys. Question is for you. What do you make of this really weird situation? Apparently, an actress got promised by a producer director, you'll get 1% of all the profits of this movie franchise moving forward. She's got $8,000 so far. I mean, maybe this goes to trial. I mean, they're making a public thing out of it. That means people are going to have to sit down under oath in discovery and make some sworn to statements that they can be legally liable for. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this goes. Whatever you guys think about all this, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure you like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget, we have a daily podcast called the John Campea Show podcast, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting app of choice. Go and subscribe to it today so it'll be there when you need it.